Good morning, students. In the last class, we have learned to draw a histogram. Now let us learn to draw a frequency polygon. A frequency polygon is a line graph used to represent data. There are two methods for drawing a frequency polygon. The first is with the help of a histogram and the second is without the help of a histogram. Let us look at the first method of drawing a frequency polygon, that is with the help of a histogram. The table shows the weights of some students in kgs. The first step is to make the classes continuous if they are discontinuous. In the given example, the classes are already continuous. Next, we need to add two more classes, one before the first class interval and the other after the last class interval, each with frequency 0. In the given example, the class width is 10. So keeping the class width same, we add two more class intervals. So the two new class intervals are 10 to 20 and 60 to 70, each with frequency 0. Taking suitable scale, mark the class intervals on the x-axis and the frequencies on the y-axis. Since the class width is 10, we have taken the scale on x-axis as 1 cm is equal to 10 kg. On the y-axis, we mark the frequencies, that is the number of students, by taking the scale as 1 cm is equal to 5 students. Next, we draw a histogram for the given data. Note that the first and the last class interval have 0 frequencies. So for these class intervals, we draw rectangles with height 0. So these rectangles will correspond to the x-axis. Next, we mark the midpoint of the upper side of each rectangle in the histogram. Join all the midpoints in order by line segments. The polygon so obtained is called a frequency polygon. Note that the first and the last point of the frequency polygon will always lie on the x-axis. Practice set 6.5, question 2. Show the following data by a frequency polygon. The table shows the electricity bill in rupees for some families. In this table, the classes are already continuous. We need to add two more classes, one before the first class interval and the other after the last class interval, each with frequency 0. In this example, the class width is 200. So keeping the class width same, we add two more class intervals. By subtracting 200 from 0, we get the first class interval, that is minus 200 to 0. By adding 200 to 1000, we get the last class interval, that is 1000 to 1200. The frequencies of the new class intervals will be 0. Next, on the graph paper, we plot the x and the y axis. On the x-axis, we will mark the electricity bill in rupees, and on the y-axis, we will show the frequencies, that is the number of families. The width of the rectangles for each class interval should be equal. So let us draw rectangles with a width of 2 cm each. Here, the class width for each class interval is 200. So, on the x-axis, 2 centimeters will represent rupees 200. That means 1 centimeter will represent rupees 100. So, on the x-axis, the scale is 1 centimeter is equal to rupees 100. Since we have decided to draw rectangles with a width of 2 centimeters, on the x-axis, we mark the class limits at a gap of 2 centimeters. Note that the first class interval -200 to 0 will lie on the left of the origin. On the y-axis, we take the scale as 1 cm is equal to 100 families and mark the number of families on the y-axis. Next, we start drawing the histogram. For the first class interval -200 to 0, the frequency is 0. So, the rectangle will be drawn corresponding to frequency 0. Next, 0 to 200, the frequency is 240. Since 1 centimeter represents 100 families, 1 millimeter will represent 10 families. So in order to mark 240, we need to count 4 millimeters above 200. In a similar manner, we will draw the rectangles for the remaining class intervals. To mark 160, we count 6 millimeters above 100. Note that the rectangles for the first and the last class interval which will correspond to the x-axis. The yellow line segments represent the upper sides of the rectangles drawn. We mark the midpoints of these upper sides of the rectangles. Note that the midpoint of the class -200 to 0 is -100, but the electricity bill cannot be negative. So, we start drawing the frequency polygon from 0 and not from -100. So, we shift the first point to the origin and start drawing the frequency polygon from the origin. So we have drawn a frequency polygon for the given data. Note that everything on the graph paper, including the scale, the axis, the histogram, the frequency polygon and the labeling should be done only in pencil.